All right. Welcome back to the Prospect Podcast. And yes, we were just on 12 hours ago. So we did a late night one yesterday. We're
Quick
back
turnaround.
today at basically our normal time. We have a fantastic guest here today, Chris Kerr, Liberty University. He's the head of director of sports performance for them, for the hockey group. We're excited to talk to him specifically a lot about sprint-based hockey, which I'm sure is a new concept in the hockey area. Um, I'm sure there's old elements they're taking into the new elements and all that kind of stuff, but we're excited to talk with Chris about that, and we're going to dive into it. And as me and Derek, who um, have interviewed almost, I'm not going to say everybody because that's an expanded network vastly since we first interviewed Tony very long time ago. But that network has grown so much. So we've interviewed many of the heavy hitters within sprint based football, sprint based training, and making that the core of your development from an athletic standpoint, which has really been cool. And the old football track consortium crew, we've probably had most of them on at some point here or another. And you could dive into those episodes and really get it. So this is another one that we're excited to really to discuss today with Chris. He's a Jersey guy like us originally. He's transplanted down. Obviously, Liberty's Virginia, right?
Yep, Central Virginia.
Okay. Is that Lynchburg or no?
Yes. Yep.
It is.
Lynchburg.
All right, I'm
Oh
correct.
boy, you're on
Nice, Dave. Nice, Dave.
Good stuff.
Nice. I'm pretty good with my geography with colleges, but sometimes I get it wrong. You know what I mean? Especially Virginia, where you got JMU, which is Harrisonburg. Then you got Virginia Tech, which is Blacksburg.
Yep.
What other? Virginia, which is Charlottesville.
Mm-hmm.
What am I missing here? That's a division. There's so many Division I schools down in Virginia. It's
Is Marshall, Virginia?
no, Marshall's West Virginia. That's Huntington.
Mm-hmm.
West Virginia's Morgantown. I'm pretty good. There was a long time, many years ago, when I was getting recruited for a high school in football. I was getting letters from everywhere. So, and schools were recruiting me from everywhere at that time, and I always would look it up. But looking it up wasn't like now, where you obviously type it into Google in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
You find it up. You really
Chat
had to go
GBT.
I would look it up, and then this is the 90s, and I would go and grab it I would look it up. And I would pull up a map, and I'm like, oh, that's where this place is. Oh, okay. That's how old I am, Chris. But yes, so I'm pretty good with the geography of most of the schools. Awesome stuff. Liberty's a great place, faith-based university, which is what I love about it. And I thought that place had, when Charlie Kirk was killed, one of the best prayer ceremonies on his behalf. I know I'm digressing there a little bit, but I just that's one of the things I love about Liberty is it's faith-based and really doubles down into that, and the family of that school really does a great job of that. All right, let's talk some sprint-based hockey. Before you do that, first of all, I have Coach D above me. Today I'm somehow in the middle. Okay. Coach Human in the middle. Chris Kerr, I'd love for you to talk and tell our audience about your whole background, athletics, yourself as an athlete, and then obviously coaching and strength and conditioning and speed development.
No, awesome. Well, hey, first off, fellas, thank you so much for having me on. Looking at your previous episodes, which if you're listening to this, hopefully you've listened to those as well. I'm all about people that are bringing in the TFC Track Football Consortium community. I think, as Coach Holler calls them, they're rebel minds, rebel talents of, let's not just keep doing the same thing over and over. Let's start to challenge the way of conventional thinking. It doesn't always work, as I've experienced with some things least like we're getting outside the box. So appreciate you guys giving a platform to people that are potentially on the fringe years ago, but I think are now more cutting edge. As all these development and technology tools are more accessible, like it seems like everyone at the high school level has a GPS system. It seems like so many people now are getting 1080 sprints or some of the knockoff products coming out there. I think you're going to see more and more that the TFC guys really had it right. So anyway, thank you. This is an awesome podcast. Honor to come on. So kind of just my general background, born and raised in Sparta, New Jersey, played, all the sports, and I was okay at them because kind of as we just discussed, there's a lot of less population in the city of Sparta. So 7th grade started playing lacrosse, and that is before it kind of blew up into like, all right, the good athletes would play. So that was kind of my sport. I was okay at it. All the good athletes hadn't started playing it yet. I I think I was just a little bit better because I could remember the plays and stuff like that. How kind of low the bar was.
Whatever works, brother. Whatever works. Whatever
Exactly.
works.
Whatever it takes to get on the field, right? So graduate high school, and that was kind of it. It was kind of over from there. I said to my guidance counselor senior year, don't put me in math or science. I'm never going to use those ever. So not taking those classes. And then did a year community at CCM, County College of Morris, Harvard on the
Right.
yeah. And then after that year, started working out with my friend Carl. And like most good New Jersey boys, I just wanted to look good with my shirt off. Carl transformed himself from being we're just going to call it a typical high school lineman into a shredded six-pack guy by the end of senior year. And I was like, man, I want that. Gets attention from the ladies. So we're going to say June, July 2011, started working out. That transformed into a CrossFit obsession. I eventually transferred to Liberty in 2012 and just met the right people. That was really it. So majored in exercise science at Liberty. At CrossFit Lynchburg, I met this really lanky, goofy, can't move, kind of funny guy named Dave. And it turned out that Dave was one of our hockey coaches here at Liberty. Actually turned out that Dave was our leading point scorer in Liberty history. So meet Dave. Dave says like, hey, our hockey teams are going to have a strength conditioning position open up. I think you should apply for it. I wasn't interested at all. I had, in my exercise science degree, observed our football team, and I saw how the weight room was run there, and I was like, that's not really for me. And I applied anyway, just because I was like, I think this thing has benefits. And once I graduate college, I feel like I need that, like health insurance and stuff. So I apply here at Liberty, go through the interview process, submit a workout, do a trial workout. And I guess I fooled everybody and they hired me. Looking back now, the people interviewing me probably weren't qualified to be interviewing me. You know what I mean? So I tricked everybody. Dave liked me. That was my in. And unfortunately, that's kind of how it goes in this world. You just got to know the right people. So July 2014, I graduate from Liberty, and here we go. I'm rocking and rolling as a college strength and conditioning coach. And that's been where I'm at ever since. I love Liberty. I love that I'm incredibly supported here by my coaches and my staff. I have the best admin. I work with the best athletic director. And then obviously for me, you were kind of mentioning it, the faith-based side of it, being in a school that really aligns with how I try to live my life of, trying to serve Jesus, all about that. Along the ways, throughout the weight room, this year will be my third freshman to senior graduating class, right? So 4 years. This will be my third kind of freshman to senior class here at Liberty. I'm kind of a dinosaur by those standards of being in one spot for 12 years. And just over time, you kind of just see like, all right, yeah, they're kind of getting strong, but that really strong guy's not making big plays on the ice like I was hoping they would. I used to work with our wrestling team too. Just ironically, I wore my wrestling shirt today. Should have had my hockey shirt on. But slowly I started to realize like if I could just make them faster, they're going to be better, right? They're going to be a faster skater. They're going to get to the puck sooner, and they're going to be able to process the game quicker because I'm tapping into the neurological side. And if you just Google speed, Coach Tony Holler is going to come up. So I'm going to say Cal Dietz and Tony Holler were kind of my gateway drugs that led me to Chris Korfist, led me into Dan Fichter, led me into the track and football consortium community, even though I do not coach athletes that are on the, on dry ground. I coach skaters, but slowly and surely you just kind of realize like just really pursuing strength only wasn't working anymore. There had to be something else. And I found all those answers in TFC. Completely stole 100%. I said it to his face. Brad Dixon's, we're going to call it training approach to sprint-based football. I just call it sprint-based hockey. Got a 1080 in 2020, right as things were getting wild. So we've been rocking and rolling with sprint-based hockey, using my 1080 in the weight room on the ice ever since. And we're having great results, and hopefully it continues on.
So talk about when you went to that, what were some of the things that you changed up with sprint-based hockey from what you might have been doing before?
So I would say the aha moment for me, and this happens, I'm sure, across all weight rooms in America, is I have 6 racks in my weight room here at the LaHaye Ice Center. I have another facility with 12 racks. So I lined everybody up by strength, right? Hey, all my strongest guys over here, all my weakest guys over here. And the workout's going on, and I'm standing back and going, if you're familiar with hockey, the benches are limited to the size. So you can only have X amount of skaters. So your roster might be 30 people, but only, let's just say 25 get to dress. So you have 5 guys left out. So they're called a healthy scratch. Like they're healthy, they could play, but they're just not going to be able to because there's no room on the bench, right? Just kind of make it simple for non-hockey people. So when I looked across my weight room, strongest to weakest, all of my strong guys were the scratches. They were the guys that didn't play much. And looking down the bench, all of my weak guys were all my big-time playmakers. All right, so I'm starting to think like, the weak guys are the ones that play the most. The strong guys are the ones that play the least. That's interesting. And then I started kind of, portion out like, all right, this guy's really strong. He's not fat. He's just really muscular. He's strong. But again, he's just not a great hockey player. This guy over here, he's weaker. He's faster. He's a better hockey player, but he hates the weight room too. So during my first TFC experience and getting to hear Coach Holler, Tony Holler speak a bunch, when he was talking about feed the cats, it was like, okay, I think that makes sense, right? So I have my prototypical best hockey player I've ever coached. His name is Quinn Ryan. And so for Quinn, the first 3 years of Liberty, it was a strength-based program, and he hated it, right? The best player in the history of this program, as far as I'm concerned, and as long as I've been here, hated the weight room. So if your best guy ever isn't bought in, that's just going to create a negative culture. But what did Quinn love to do? I would look over and I would see him like doing a crazy box jump variation. He'd love to move fast. He would not want to do more bench squat deadlift, but he would go more and more and more reps of a broad jump or a jump mat jump, right? He wanted to compete. He wanted to track. He wanted to measure. He wanted to do explosive, powerful things. So just taking all those principles from Tony, right around, let's say 2018-19, I started to sort of make my shift into a feed the cat style program where, all right, whoever my best players are on the ice, whatever they're the best at in the weight room, we're going to do more of that, right? Because typically your strong guys, they're your grinders, they're your workhorses. They're going to do whatever. It doesn't matter, right? They're going to be bought in because they get their validation from the weight room. So if I can now take my best players who typically are your, excuse my language, your crap heads on the team, your biggest issues on the team, and create a culture around them where, all right, it's very jump numbers based. It's very sprint numbers based. It's very competition numbers based. It just creates a positive culture in the weight room. It directly transfers to the ice because your best guys off ice are the best on ice as well. Then everybody really starts to buy in. So I would say that was my really first big nugget was like, yeah, feed the cats. Like, how do you get these high level, high performers to play? Have them compete. They're all competitive. have them jump on something. And all right, my number was 32. Now you go. Oh, yours was 32.1. Let me go again. Let me go again, coach. Let me beat him. And then naturally from there, it's all right, how do I get more out of this? How do I really tap into that nervous system that I'm realizing is so important? And really, with all the questions I had, Chris Korfist had all the answers for me.
No doubt about it. So that's really interesting. I just immediately, as soon as you said, um, your smaller, weaker guy, your weaker guys were the better players, and they, obviously they were more skilled. I immediately thought Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was my first thought. Like when you look at Wayne Gretzky, he's skinny. He's not super built. I'm sure, but he was a fantastic skater, right? And fantastic with the puck, and lightning fast with on skates, right?
Yeah.
And great body control on skates.
Mhm.
And obviously, you could argue, obviously, most people would consider him at least the original greatest player, in hockey, right? So that's what's so interesting about. I never thought about it in that fashion, and it used to be so funny because him being that great, people always would be like, oh, but he's weak, and then he's not that strong, and he needs some goons around him, and that was during the era where you would supply some goons to a guy, right?
Goons.
Yeah.
You could have some goons.
But I also, when you watch playoff hockey in the NHL, is very different than regular season hockey. Playoff hockey is speed, is scoring, is because they're trying to win the championship at that point. In the regular season, obviously, yes, they're trying to win, but there's a lot of other stuff that has to do with fan entertainment.
Yes.
That is part of it, but not when you get to playoff hockey. And those guys who are the most at a premium are obviously the best skaters, the best puck handlers, and the guys who were the quickest to the puck, right? So it's really interesting, and it sounds logical, but why has that not been a thing before in sprint-based hockey?
Yeah, just excuse my language here. A lot of people just
You're
don't
good.
have the ball. They don't have the balls to switch over, right? Like I'm going to say like Tony Holler did it almost out of a necessity with a track team of like, okay, I just don't have enough athletes here because track sucks. Let me try to make it suck less. Right. And then for Brad Dixon, like to say like, hey, I'm not going to run gassers. I'm not going to do this and this classical conditioning at the end of our practice and not have it be anywhere near the energy systems required for the sport of football. We're going to do everything as fast as possible. We're going to take precious practice time. We're just going to sprint as fast as we can. Like a lot of coaches are just under different types of pressures and they just don't have the balls to say like, hey, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to believe in this thing and I'm going to do it. And even here at Liberty, like, again, Liberty's super unique. We were talking about it off air. We are not NCAA. We compete in the ACHA. So we have 5 hockey programs here at Liberty, 3 on the men's side, 2 on the women's side. And I'm not going to say that everybody was bought in right away. It takes time.
Of course not.
Because every sport has their classic traditions. And if things don't go great, it's always blamed on conditioning. Oh, we were out of shape. Oh, were we? Because we turned the puck over in the first period when we were very, very fresh 8 times. So I don't think we were out of shape. I just think we're bad at hockey, right? So oftentimes sport coaches don't want to point the blame at themselves. And so I think that's why a lot of these things aren't as accepted. But kind of like I said earlier, with different type of testing and measurement equipment being very readily available from the youth to high school, college, professional setting, with it seems like every high school now having GPSs, on their players, you're starting to see a lot of that become very important. You're starting to understand like, okay, everyone in my high school weight room might be able to power clean 205, but they can't run very fast in the game. What are we doing here, guys? So I think as the testing, as the measuring tools become more readily available and coaches have to kind of own up and have that accountability, I think you're going to continue to see that shift towards what can we do to make these kids faster. Now, don't get me wrong. Yeah, you're going to have certain positions within certain sports where they do have to be strong, and strength should probably be more of a focus. But the big plays are made by big time players, and they're not slow, and they're executing their skills and their systems at a high rate. And you have to be able to do that. You have to be able to prepare your team for those types of things.
Yes, even in football, even if you're at a position that requires size, like offensive line, every relative to your size, the quicker guy wins, right?
Mhm.
So, two guys that are 280, the quicker one is going to win. So to me, it's a lot of just like, it just makes sense. Like the guy who gets there first has the advantage, and that's always the advantage, right? That the guy who gets there first has the advantage. And then, his skill is a different category, right? His skill,
Yes.
once he gets there, if he's not as skilled, then he could lose that battle. But getting there first is the first part of the battle, right?
Mhm.
So getting there first, right? Like, and I think that's an important thing. That's running, jumping, skating quickly, right? Those kind of things are really, really important in how much force and explosion you can generate. It's really interesting in the sense that the traditions that battle against you.
Mhm.
I'm curious, just some of the things that you had to overcome with buying. I obviously, I coached high school. I was doing a level of this before it was really a thing.
Yeah.
But now I coach I'm not coaching high school anymore. After coaching 20 years of high school, I coached my son's youth team, and I applied sprint-based football.
Mhm.
And I saw just in 4 months dramatic improvements. And one of the interesting, shocking things that happened was I had a group that, for affectionately, because in youth football, you have to play everybody a minimum of 8 plays.
Mhm.
And so we had 26 kids on the team, and you got, your 15 best players, quote unquote, that you're using most of the time. And you got about 10 guys that are learning or different state, that you got to get them plays. So we formulated this group, we called it the Beast Group, and we put a handful, 3 or 4 good players with about 8 kids who were smaller, but they were quick, and they really should be skill guys, but they weren't at the level of our other skill guys. They're not quite as fast, not quite as athletic, not quite as strong, but they weren't big kids.
Mhm.
And they all played on the line, and we kind of developed this load system. And they started out a little bit struggling. By the end of the year, they were their unit was the second most touchdowns scored
Crazy.
of the whole, right?
Mhm.
And because we were so focused on sprint, a lot of the sprint-based football stuff, and I told Derek this, like, we don't tackle humans that much, and we focused on the technique and using pads, the rugby pads, and a lot of those things. And everything was about doing it fast, learning obviously the right way to do it, but doing things fast. We'd sprint at the beginning of practice every day. We would do between stop and goes or 10-yard sprint. We would do a few of those every day at the beginning of every day or every other day at the beginning of practice. And over time, those kids got fast, similar to skill guys.
Yeah.
And even though they weren't skilled as the running backs, so they weren't able to be but they were able to go run downfield, make blocks, and they would get in the way of people. And good running backs we would have our good running backs with them, and they would just catch it and run. And they would once or twice a game, they would break off a big run with that unit. And they started to formulate this pride that our first unit, which had some bigger kids on it, we're like, what the heck is going on with this group, right? Like, and what it was they had pride in the fact that they were Fast. They literally, there's no other way to put it. They're not big. They would just run down, get in the way. Like, it's not like they were going to blow anybody off the ball. They would get in the way. They were quickest to the point, They were very quick to the point, and we structured a system that worked to their benefit. Obviously, if we were going to, have them double team people, that would not be effective. But they would sprint to the point and get in people's way. And it was the running back's job to pick their way through, and they could. And it's very interesting. And that, to me, was the most glaring part of where sprint-based helped them, because of the fact that it was out of necessity. We were like, what are we going to do with these kids that have to learn? They need a whole year of learning football, tackling up before we could put them anywhere else. So we're like, you know what? We'll take them. They'll learn to block and learn to run fast. And that was their whole mantra was get off the ball fast, get in somebody's way. And it was amazing how effective it was. And my point on it all is that when people get in that speed mentality, they understand that they got to be first to the point of attack in everything they do. And if you're first to the point of attack, you have a chance, even if you are somewhat less skilled or smaller. You have a chance. You have a chance because you're there first. And when you're there first, it's what you talked about. I'd like you to talk more about it. The neurological impacts of that. Because you actually have a split second more to think than the other person does. And I don't mean thinking like, oh, let me debate what I'm going to do. That athletic thinking that allows you to make a decision of where I should be, because where should my angle be? Where you're doing that on the fly because you got there first. Meanwhile, the guy who might be stronger than you doesn't know what to do because you're already on top of them. So they now have to try and muscle their way through it versus the person who's quick, who's there. Now, eventually that person might run them over, but in football, that running back, if he's any good, is gone. He's down. He's down. If he's any worth his weight in salt, he's not carrying the ball if he's not anyway, and he's by that guy, and that's all he needs, right? And that's I think I'd like you to talk about the neurological part of that, because I think that's a often not talked about part of being fast.
So what? Just to comment on what you were doing with your team coach. Another thing is there isn't a team sport coach in the world that would say, no, I wish my players were slower, right? Like they all want faster players. They all want the fastest kid. But throughout an entire week of practices, are you giving your players the opportunity to build or display their speed? And that's where, again, like sprint-based hockey is like, hey, take time throughout your practice. Like, hey, just do a 10-yard sprint and then rest, right? And that's what these GPS-laden teams are doing. Hey, once a week, twice a week, you're going to do 2 30-yard flies or sprints. The GPS tracks that top speed. We got that in. Awesome, right? So for you're developing your athletes. Nobody on your team, that youth team, you can't say this kid's going to the NFL or this kid's going to be a big time Division I athlete, but they could have the potential and you could ruin it through very, very poor coaching and training at that youth level. You need to expose them to all these different things. Don't just put your lineman he's going to be the big kid bucket, because that little chunky kid in 7th grade might be a phenomenal linebacker one day.
Correct.
But in that incredible neurological development window, if you just grind him down, then he might not develop that speed or awareness or skill to be faster later on down the road. And yeah, you could look anywhere on social media and find wonderful like development speed ideas. It's implementing them in practices, which are so tough and so difficult for a lot of people, because again, they're just going to do what they did. Right. I'm sure when you were growing up playing high school football, playing youth football, you didn't have a sprint-based program. You had hey, it's a puke day program.
Correct.
Right? So develop these kids, develop these qualities that are so important. Part of that is speed. Part of that is strength too. Right.
Yeah,
you gotta be strong. But yeah, so just I really like that idea of like you have to give your players, no matter what the level, time to develop their speed, time to practice running really fast. And that has to come at the start or near the start of your practice, not at the end when they're tired and they're not neurologically not going to hit those top speeds. But more on that neurological side, pretty sure I first heard this term from Tony Holler of speed reserve. All right. So you have your peak speed that you could hit. Well, the game is not played at that speed. It's, a sub maximal of the peak speed. So if your top speed is 23 miles per hour and the game is averagely played at 18, you're just able to process and think. Everything's going to slow down for you. You're going to be able to make better decisions because you're not redlining neurologically every single play. So there's that factor to it. And if you've ever seen the movie The Matrix, Morpheus presents Neo of like, the machines turned us into a battery. And that's pretty much all we are. We're electrical signals. So if I can better wrap my nerves with, let's just say, better wiring, if I could get my synapses of my neurological system, my brain to fire more effectively, everything therefore is going to be better. Everything's going to be more effective, more efficient, more powerful. And you could do that without too much effort, a couple days a week, working on developing a better nervous system for firing all your muscles, for coordinating all your muscles, for execution of something speed or skill or systems related. So not only will that give me a speed reserve, but just more time to think, more time to process. If I know in hockey, I'm going to go into the boards, they call them a 50-50 puck battle. So we're net front, puck goes over to the side. I'm going to race there with somebody. If I could get half a step in front of them and seal them off, I'm no longer battling to try to get my stick on the puck. Now I have time to look left, look right, and then make a quick decision with that puck. And those are, decisions come from reps through practice and reps through practice. The other thing that a sprint-based system allows is opening and closing of a OODA loop quicker. So I'll just kind of briefly touch on that. The OODA loop is developed in the military. The United States had airplanes that were inferior, but I'm going to call it the cabin, the canopy, our glass that was over top of us was larger, so we could see more compared to the Russian MiG or whatever. And so they came up with the OODA loop: observe, orient, decide, act. I need to see what's going on. I need to decide, orient where I am in space. I need to make a decision and I need to act on it. And so the OODA loop is constantly going on. You're going to do thousands of them per play in football or hockey, basketball, baseball, whatever. So if I'm getting my brain to fire at a higher octane because I'm faster, I could kind of slow down in a way. And now I process and use my OODA loop. And if I'm acting versus reacting, I'm going to be opening and closing that loop even faster. I first heard OODA loop from a coach named Keir Wenham Flat, big rugby guy, got into American football. Now he's what's called the combat sports scene. But that's just something like coaches don't think about enough. And that's what elite athletes do. All right, hey, here's the play we're running. First week of practice, it's going to be a little rough. Second, third week, now it's kind of second nature. They know what to do. All right, and now we have to make adjustments based off of the defense. All right, I have to make an adjustment based off of I'm on this side of the ball. I'm near my, I'm about to score end zone, or I'm backed way up near my end zone. So just those OODA loop factors are really what separate your elite versus your non-elite. If I barely have to think and I know how to get into the right spot, the right place at the right time with the right skill, the right technique, your nervous system is what drives all those things. And if all you do is slow grind throughout your practices and your conditioning sessions, you're not queuing up that nervous system to execute your skills and your systems or your plays at a high level. And that's what neurological training can do for you. That's what development of speed can do for you.
That's really interesting. I mean, the processing element of it is such a not often talked about part, but training your brain to be able to process more quickly, to be able to make decisions more quickly because of the development of that area. By development of speed, and changing those neurological pathways to favor that, which is really interesting. Now, when you had to get buy-in on this, because I remember, and by the way, youth sports is actually, I would say, as hard as like high school probably is from that standpoint, in the sense that no doubt any of these guys who played, let's say they played high school football, they just do whatever their high school coaching, and high school's a lot like that too. High school coaching a lot of times, because even if they played at college, they probably were from a different era. If they only played in high school, chances are their high school coach wasn't doing anything like this, right? So 9 out of 10 times, I would say. So there's such an education process. I remember like, if you look at everybody in youth football around me, everybody was just running each other into each other,
Yeah.
That's basically what they do most of the practice. I know people get mad at me when I say this all the time, and I look over at my assistants and I'm like, that's what we don't want to do. Okay. And they're like, well, why? Like that's always their question. Well, why? Like, if you're gonna you're gonna get better at tackling by tackling people all the time. I'm like, well, yeah, by week 7 or week 6, those kids have been bashing each other. Let's take out the fact that it's probably not good for them in the long run. Okay. Right. Let's take that out. But but they've been tackling each other so much. By the time week 6 comes around, they don't want to tackle anybody anymore.
No.
Okay. And that's one of the things, like tackling fatigue. Like, you want them to, my best players, that's all they want to do, the best tacklers. They want to just hit each other the whole time. I'm like, yeah, of course you want to kill everybody, because you're the best tackler. You want to kill every one of these. Why don't we get better at going fast and your technique, and you'll be so ready to crush the other team come Sunday, because you're like this can that has all the pressure coming up, and you're just going to explode. And even though they had a hard time with it, they realized how much better they were in the games, especially late in the season, because they were still fresh. They weren't like, oh, my head's hurting or something like that, right? And then a young kid, if a kid has a headache, a young kid, high school kids and college kids, they'll push through it, maybe not say anything, okay? Because, like, I remember in college, I had a headache for 5 years. I didn't say shit to anybody, And,
no.
No.
You just want to get on the field.
Job. But a youth
kid
you
just want to be on the field.
A youth kid will tell you their head's hurting, right? And obviously
they don't know any different.
Right. As a kid, as a coach, you're gonna be like, hey, I don't want you hitting. You know what I mean? If your head's hurting, right? At least the smart ones, that's what they do. But so from a youth, we have so few kids that ever were in practice that would say my head is hurting. I mean, every once in a while, they had a tough game and they come to practice and maybe they accidentally went helmet to helmet with somebody, and and so we're like, hey, you're not doing any regular contact. You're just working on the pads today or whatever. You're doing absolutely no regular contact. But it was so rare. I could count maybe on my hands in the whole season that any kid even had a headache at all during this, which is so rare in football, right? And so the whole component of focusing on athleticism, being fresh, focusing on allowing that to be in the game, translates to better performances and much more excitable performances. That's the other thing. Like football is one of the unique sports in that you only play one a week, right? So, other sports, hockey, and you're gonna sometimes you'll play multiple games in a week. Although I don't know if college, I guess you do in college hockey too, probably a couple games a week, but even more so, the important to have some level of freshness, because it becomes a grind. You want them to be able to play the game all out. And be able to do that. And what so many people from the other systems, the old school systems, is they basically worked the game out of them in practice. Yes. And that was gone. And now they're coming to games. And you know what's funny? Like I always say, it's these teams. This is what I noticed. And this, I didn't even know what it was called back then, but I was doing something like this with my team. I used to always tell them the goal is to be great in postseason, not to be the very best team in week one. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, obviously, there are some great teams that even if they do things the wrong way, they win championships. They're winning a lot of times, in my opinion, because they have the very best players, and in spite of some of the things they do,
yes,
because they have the various players. But when I see teams that have had like that are obviously you have to have talent, but maybe don't have the best talent, and they go very far. That's when I'm like, okay, what are those guys doing? You know what I mean? What are those guys doing that's different? And that was one of the things that I learned is that, hey, you want your guys to be, and it came from track, because I remember track, like I had to sell many years ago. I had to sell my father on this. I said, and my father now in his 80s, that's all he does when he coaches track is peak them for the end of the year. Yeah. When I was in high school, we would be phenomenal. We would win the state sectional championship, blow everybody out, and our very best athletes would ever score in the group championships, and we would be one of the favorites, and we would fail at the group level every single year. Mm-hmm. Okay, and we win the sectionals by a million. Because my father was pointing at those years for the championship he knew he could win, which was the sectionals.
Yeah.
Okay, he knew he could win that championship and didn't probably have the confidence that and when I started, I was an assistant in the early 2000s. I said to him, why don't we focus our kids not doing as many of the dual meets? Because back in the old days, you used to do dual meets in track. Mm-hmm. Let's do less of the dual meets. Let's not run our star athletes in the dual meets. The development kids are absolutely worthwhile because they got a ways to go. They need to, start to get to a certain point. They need to get the experience because they're not going to place in the bigger meets. They're not even going to run in the bigger meets. But our big time, better athletes, let's not run them in the dual meets during the week. Only the invitationals on Saturdays. Mm-hmm. And we started doing that. And we were winning state group championship after state group championship. Our kids were placing in the New Jersey State Immediate Champions. And it completely changed the way it worked. And the only reason he listened to me is because I sold him on the 4x100 relay to do it the way the Olympians do it, and which was put their hand down, come out and be more explosive, instead of the way from 1960, which is what he originally taught, was standing start and explode from there. Mm-hmm. And when we went to the Penn relays, he goes, well, we'll see how this works. You know what I mean? That's how my father was, we'll see how this works. And he broke the school record.
Amazing.
And I turned around and I said, he looked at me and he goes, maybe you're onto something. Yeah, and it's his credit. He was already in his 60s and he was able to adapt. And from that point forward, he does nothing. He went to a girls' school and he had great sprinter, Division I after great sprinter, because he changed the way he trained them. Mm-hmm. He focused on speed only. This is long before sprint race. But when I talk with him now about the sprint, Tony Holler and stuff, he's like, I just started doing it because I talked to college coaches and they were telling me how they peaked their athletes, and I started to understand what you were talking about, and I started to talk to these guys and what they were doing, and I was like, man, I need to focus on this. And so it's so great to see it happening in other sports, mm-hmm. Because what Tony's talking about, because people always dismiss track as track.
Yes.
Right? That's the first thing you do. 100%. I mean, for years, right? They're track athletes. That doesn't translate into our sport. I'm like, and I would say, like, well, if he runs 1 mile an hour faster than this guy, how does it not translate? Mm-hmm. It's just because you didn't develop. When you say this guy's a track guy, it means you didn't develop his other skill sets.
Yes.
Or he doesn't have those other skill sets, maybe too. Like maybe he doesn't catch as well. Maybe he doesn't catch as well, right? As the other guy. But it's not. It's all things being equal, the fastest guy will win. Period. Mm-hmm. That's the thing that people don't understand. All things being equal. It's always the all things being equal thing that people have to understand when you're evaluating what will make somebody great. I'm curious. when you started to deal with rejections, how you started to handle those things, and what was the aha moment for your athletes?
Those are great questions, and I think something that all coaches will struggle with as they start to, peel off from that traditional, this is kind of how we always done it type of thing, to focus on being fresh, to focus on developing speed. Like those shouldn't be new concepts by any means, but those are kind of things that a lot of people aren't about and they're not really used to. So it was kind of easier for me because I was in the hockey world. And all I had to do was find something and then attach the word Minnesota to it. And instantly like, oh,
yeah.
Oh, whoa. Oh, Minnesota's doing that? Oh, all right, man. Maybe we should
Then we gotta
that.
hop on it. Yeah. Maybe we should take a look at this. Like, that's it.
And really it came, let's just say it was 2016. Our men's team maybe wasn't doing as well, and the coaches came to me and said, hey, they're tired. We think it's the workouts. It's the workouts why they're tired. I said, oh, really? Okay. So I fired off emails to every major NCAA college hockey program, right? So the Big Ten, your Minnesotas, your Wisconsins, Michigans, Ohio States, Notre Dame's. So send an email, hey, this is me. This is who I am. This is kind of what I'm going through. And they all answered back, it's the practices. It ain't you. It's the practices. So you present that to the coach of like, well, everybody else in these larger organizations are saying it's actually you. It's not me. And that's the first time I realized like I just need to back up with what I'm saying with people they respect and people they value. So that's the part of relationships. If I enter into a new system as a sports performance strength conditioning guy, I need to figure out who are the stakeholders, who are the main figures, where are my coaches learning from, and then BS as much as I can that I stole it from them, right? When I was working with the wrestling team, yes, I'm from New Jersey and I wrestled in third grade. So that gave me a lot of credibility there. I know High Point High School and I know Blair Academy. So that got me a lot of credibility. But I would just
shoot those names out. Hey, just name drop. Just keep name dropping. You're good. Like whatever gets you through the door, brother. Whatever gets you through the door.
That's all it takes. And I would just say like, hey guys, when Jordan Burroughs is going in for his blast double, he gets into these angles and positions. So that's why we're going to do spring ankle exercises, wrestling team. Hey, when Kyle Dake is doing his head hands deep, right? So just drop the big time players, drop the big time programs, drop the big time coaches, or just find out like who those coaches value and drop their name as much as possible. You got it from them. This is what they do. And that's really, really how I learned to create buy-in. So the moment that I could say, hey, I heard about this machine from the University of Minnesota's best friend, Cal Dietz, Chris Korfist, heard about this machine. I think we should get one. He told me Minnesota has 4. Oh, all right. Yeah, let's buy a 1080. Why wouldn't we? That's so smart. And so, yeah, just finding out who those stakeholders are. And then slowly over time, our men's hockey team transitioned from a top 20 into a top 10. Now they're a consistent top 5 program. On our women's side, I know it sounds ridiculous, but I work with one of North America's top women's programs in the country. We've won 7 of the last 10 national championships. We dominate, won 5 in a row. For the girls, it was the same thing of let's just be fast. There's no contact in women's college hockey or women's hockey in general. So if they're not going to hit me and beat me up, just go around them, right? Just be faster than them. So it does take time, but find who those main stakeholders or key people are or key organizations are in that coach's life. Don't try to change everything at once because essentially you're going to walk in and you're going to say, hey, you suck. Everything you've done sucks. Here's what we're going to do. Like pick 1 or 2 things. Start with practice. Hey, what do you think about just doing 1 sprint of practice?
Little tweaks at a time, right? And that's something, yeah, Chris, that's something that a lot of guys that we've talked to about implementing these things step by step, right? And that's one of like, step 101 is, hey, a little bit at a time. Right.
Yeah.
The worst thing to do is to walk in there with a guy who's, or a program that's had, because for a lot of cases, it's one way or the other, right? Like they've had success and they're just trying to take it to another level, or they've had nothing and they're looking to just totally flip the switch and go a totally different route because they have no other options, right? Like, let's turn to this because we see success through others, and let's try and do that. I think the hardest part about implementing this in terms of football specific is, and this could go across the board with most sports and whatnot, is guys are coached the way they were coached. So they're just set in their ways. And so look, parents are the same way. They see something, or administrators the same way, right? Like they go off what it is or what they've seen, and that's kind of what they follow suit with. When you're coming in with something totally off the wall, something totally that, you've never seen before, of course you're going to not want to do it because there's going to be pushback. You're going to have to now justify why we're doing this. You're going to have to show the progress and, those types of things along the way to kind of get those people on board. And then obviously once you do, the train's rolling, just get on or get out of the way because this is how it's going. But that, I think, when you spoke on, the availability of the technology where now you can actually like look at numbers and prove things, when you can literally show them the data, I think that's a huge piece to this puzzle, is because when people see things, like there's one thing, if we can put an athlete out there and we see them improving, coaches and others that are kind of in it, they can see that. But to the average eye, they need to literally like look at a piece of paper with numbers going in a different direction. And that, I think, will help this whole thing as it moves forward. And I love it because Tony says it all the time, right? He's like, look, I've been doing this for God knows how long, and I just got popular, right? Because it's a hard tape to get across when it comes to it. But, we've implemented it. The high school program that I'm at, not just football, but, obviously, our track coaches also are, a football guy with us. So he's implemented it across. So, we have 3 seasons of this for certain kids, right? Like they're in football, then they go to indoor track, outdoor track. They're getting all the sprint based stuff. They're getting not the full 100%, but enough of it that we're right on the edge of like, yo, we're 100% sprint based. But that's the approach you're taking. And I think when the kids start to see it, especially the, rank, record, and publish, because none of these kids want to be at the bottom of a list, right? Correct. And they definitely don't want to be less than anything. You talked about the competition aspect, huge piece of the puzzle. That's where I really think you can start to really kind of rein people in and get them on board by showing that data that now you have the ability to show, because you have the technology to do it, right? And like you said, the price point will continue to drop, and, everybody will be on board because now, hey, let me show you, Mr. Athletic Director, right? Like now you can email all these parents that think we're crazy, but like now you can show them, like, look, this is what it is.
Yeah, it's most old school coaches aren't keeping themselves accountable to a number.
Correct.
Right. It just is what it is. But again, like
absolutely,
we've hit on it a bunch of times. It's very, very accessible now. You could buy products from Simply Faster, OVR, Jump, and now you can measure ground contact times. You can get your RSI, reactive strength index. So like you drop off something, you land and jump. How are you reacting off the ground? You can get jump heights, and they're $250, $300 versus, a jump mat right now is like $1,000. Right. So you could get 3 of those. You could have a 100-man roster and rip through a vertical jump a couple days a week. You like laser timing systems. OVR has a laser. You can get a dasher. You get free laps. Awesome too. I've had that. And I use that on and off.
I mean, look, we're talking just a couple years ago that those things were very difficult to have, or you had to hire an outside company.
Expensive.
Yeah.
Right. And you had to hire an outside company to come in and that had that and was like, hey, so now you're talking about price points and all this other kind of stuff.
Wait till Timo gets a hold of it. Wait till Timo give it a couple of years. Timu will be coming.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They'll have their own version.
Wait till 99. Wait till one of your AI things, right?
Yeah.
Wait till one of your AI things start controlling all the lasers around the rink and whatnot. And now you're like, you're shooting this off here.
It will get cheaper. The good thing about that is, as it does get cheaper, that technology gets cheaper. The good side of that is that it will, for more people who are bought in, it'll make it more accessible, help them be able to
absolutely
train their athletes better. Because really, that's the truth. I mean, I understand obviously companies have to make money, but in the beginning, other than the trailblazers, right, who are willing to bite the bullet on their own financially, or you convince your administrators to buy in, like you did with the 1080 machine and those kind of things. The guys who are going to have it are going to be like the Minnesotas, right? And they're going to have a guy like you who's bought into that kind of a system, but also has all the resources available to him, right? And then you're a trailblazer, and you're able to now, you're developed your teams into national champions, and you're doing it, and people look and go, wait, how is this guy doing it? He has less, you know what I mean, or doesn't have what Minnesota has accessible, or Maine, or any of those, big time Division I programs that they have accessible to them. And then they look over and go, wow, okay, that's what he's doing. If he's doing it there and he's developed these athletes into becoming top of their game, what can we do with our program? But eventually it gets trickled down that there are more of, as the cost drives down, more people have that ability. And the great thing about it, with what you're doing is, I always say this, like, there are people that won't change. So
absolutely not.
My favorite thing about coaching is that people are like, wait a minute, they're going to know, like, this is what you do. They're going to know. I'm like, no, people don't change. Like, people don't adapt. Now, if we're not, quote unquote, yet there where we're not quite good enough yet, yes, they might still beat us for a time being. But eventually, we'll get more and more athletes too, and we'll use our system, and we'll eventually we will beat them because they won't change, and that's there's the majority of people won't change, which is what I love about the sprint-based football stuff, the sprint-based hockey stuff, is that it gives you the advantage because you're willing to change. And the truth is, I want people, that's why we do this podcast, that are thinking about changing, but don't have the validation like you talk about, like how you provide validation for your athletes by saying, hey, this program is doing it. We should start to do it, or this person is doing it. To be able to go and say, hey, listen, here's a place that's doing it, and here's a bunch of clips that you can go and watch and realize that these guys are. And like, I go in your article on Simply Faster, and you have the data out there, like, from maybe it was your 2021 season or something.
Yes.
Like, you wrote the article and you have the data out there showing exactly what you did, how you timed them, the exact data points, which is what the beauty of all this stuff is. You need to be able to understand how to interpret the data. That's the part of coaching that comes in. But the data gives you the tools to be able to make those decisions. And obviously, the better coach you are, the better you're able to make those kind of decisions and help your athletes get to a different level. But it's so cool. Like, I mean, you're testing guys in the hallway, dude. Like, I love it. Like, you're like, hey, like when people are like, I don't have the resources to do this. I don't have a facility to do it in. Dude,
where there's a will, there's a way.
Timing them in the hallway, dude. He measured it out and he timed them in the hallway. So he got a consistent number to be able to go off of for your testing. And I think that's so cool. Like, what would you say to guys that are like, I want to do it, I'm not sure, I don't want to get fired, right? Because that's obviously, especially at the level that
that's
you guys
huge fear, right?
Yeah.
That's a huge fear for guys, right? Like, that's a huge fear.
What would you say to them?
Yeah, no, it's I talk with well, I'm just gonna word it as some coaches that have multi-million dollar athletes, and I share with them like, okay, here's what I do, but my athletes aren't getting paid multi-million dollars, so be cautious, right? Like I get it, the fear of hurting that level of athlete or that number on a contract, the fear of not doing well enough, and then if your team doesn't perform, the head coach and you are gone. Just sort of is what it is. But yeah, to kind of get over that, I would say just start very simple and then just have conversations with the athletes. When I would go up to our best players, when I would go up to Quinn Ryan, I'm like, hey, I'm thinking of just measuring a lot of jumps. What do you think? You think that would be helpful? Oh yeah, absolutely. Hey, I'm thinking of measuring some sprints. We're going to kind of do it like this. We'll do it on and off the ice, so then we can see if it's going to work. Like, what do you think of that? And all you need is like one or two people to buy in. Start very simple. And if you're following Chris Corfus, Dan Fichter, Cal Dietz a lot right now, for the last little bit here, they're very, very into acceleration. Right. So I've actually taken my 10-meter sprint. I've shortened it down to 5 meters because I care a lot about that 0 step. What my number one metric on the 1080 is how far can you go in 1 second? I figured that out really quick. Whoever goes the furthest in 1 second is the fastest to the 5, the 10, and beyond. So
Chris, just a quick question because
5 meters.
I just want a quick question. Like in regards to hockey itself, right? And obviously the measuring of things, right? Like football, we know we have the 40, right? And baseball, you have the 60. What's the equivalent to that in hockey? Is it blue line to blue line? How does that work? Or is there a correlation?
Yeah, I wouldn't say right now there is a standard, but I would say like a blue line to blue line is so center ice, the middle of the court in hockey is a red line, and then you have 2 zones, your offensive, your defensive zone, and those lines are blue, right? So red line, center ice, blue lines are distinguishing the offensive, defensive zones. Blue line to blue line for sure, because hockey is such a start-stop, change of direction sport, but also a 30-meter as well. So 30 meters, so you kind of get that top end speed, blue line to blue line. So you can kind of get an idea of their acceleration. Oftentimes, though, you'll see people do a fastest lap and get a fly through blue to blue.
Oh,
yeah. So
that's
skate around, get over speed, and then slingshot and rocket through timing gates, blue line to blue line, and then get that peak velocity. So that's most how
flying 40. Right. That would almost be like a flying 40 in correlation to like football and whatnot. And look, I find it fascinating, obviously, like with hockey and like just the whole like speed, right? It just because you're adding, like you're on skates. So you might be able to run fast, but that doesn't mean shit if you can't skate fast. You know what I'm saying? So you're adding almost a piece of equipment that needs to now correlate with the whole, the whole thing. So it's, how does that affect the training aspect of it, right? Because you can train in sneakers and shoes in the weight room, but all that stuff now be done on skates. So how do you kind of manage that aspect of it?
It's a great question. And having 1080 data or any sort of sprint data, but to me, I want the whole picture. So if you only get a time from a timing gate or a laser system, you don't get the whole picture at all. The data that a 1080 provides for you is unbelievable. So having 1080 data, it drives much, much better conversations with the athlete, but then with the coach as well. So there's an offensive strategy, I'm going to word it in hockey, called going wide, right? So the defenseman is skating backwards. I'm skating forward towards them. I could just go around them and crash into the net and score, or, create some chaos. So going wide, if you're able to go wide, that's massive. You have to be really fast to do that, though. So we have certain players on our team that are fast enough to go wide, and then others who they just don't. Well, if I could show the coach through the data off ice, like, hey, player 2 is just as fast as player 1, they've either never been told to go wide, or they don't have the skating skill, or they just don't have the technique. So if you want them to start doing that, just train them up. Vice versa, if I have 2 people that are just as fast, but on ice one is faster than the other, they're probably just a bad skater, right? So, hey, coach, work on this player's skating skill, and they're going to have the exact same qualities and abilities as this player. So skating skill is like the ultimate, and that's the end all be all once you step onto the ice. There's a lot of IQ behind that as well, knowing what you're doing. When you get the puck on the stick, if you know what you're going to do with it, because it's just ingrained in there, you're going to appear faster than the player gets the puck, looks up, and is like, all right, now what do I do with it?
What am I doing? Right.
Yeah. So as far as the transfer, it really allows for good conversations. But then from there, speed is speed and the body is the body, right? So all those good qualities that you want off ice, like a very strong foot driving through the big toe, a mobile stiff ankle, the ability to get into really good shin angles and drive and push, those all transfer and translate over to the ice as well. My fastest players off ice are always my fastest players on ice. Every now and then, though, you'll get somebody who's really fast off ice, and they're just not a good hockey player. It just kind of is what it is. So they need to work on their skill, but a lot of times it's the IQ. They just can't process the game fast enough. That's where infinity walks come in. But they get the puck and they kind of just freeze, or they can't quite remember the systems that we're trying to run and execute those. But yeah, all the qualities that you're going to build off ice, they transfer on ice. I didn't necessarily believe it, but after testing and measuring a ton of people, you realize like, oh no, it works. Like it develop the feet, develop the ankles, develop the ability to get into a good shin angle, get those speed and power qualities you want, like any other sport, and then combine it into the on ice stuff, and it works really well.
I got to reverse engineer the 1080 machine so I can make my own since it's $17,000. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I won't put it out there too much, but our swim coach here at Liberty, also within my department, so a non-NCAA swim department, swim team, Coach Heath Grishaw, phenomenal, came in as a younger guy and just really built up an incredible program here. He reached out to our engineering department here at Liberty and just said like, hey, here's this thing. Could you have students build it? So student groups take a whole year to kind of like build something at the end of the school year.
Yeah, it's their project.
Yeah, they have a trade show, and so they built a 1080. It was pretty amazing. So they use it in their swim practices now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it doesn't have all the crazy.
That is so cool.
Does,
right.
But they built it. Really, if you get really really good at breaking down film of a sprint, and Chris Korfist in my mind is the best for it. I know there's other coaches out there. I've gone all in with Chris Korfist. If you have some timing gates and an iPhone and you have a good coach's eye, you could kind of get most of it. But man, when you see the force developed in a 0 step of a high level sprinter versus like a medium level sprinter, it just jumps out. When you could say like, that step to look a little funny. I want to know from meter 4 to 5 what their power was, what their force was. Like the amount of data you could pull out of it is just unbelievable. It'll take a power, a velocity, a force for every centimeter you're moving in whatever given distance you want to test. Like it's just incredible.
It's unbelievable. Of the information that it does, and then you build your training around that, right? And
yes,
and you could utilize it to train athletes too, right? Doesn't it?
Yes, yeah, it is. If you're only using a 1080 sprint as a testing tool, I really hope my teams compete against you, because we're gonna rock. So it has to start with the sport. So you could bring a timing system onto the ice. I did that for years, but when you could really measure what's going on with an athlete, and what's wild is if I sit down with my 1080 data next to a high level skating coach, the skating coach could say, stride number 4, you look at it and the power went down. All right, here's why. So we have a ton of on ice data with our 1080. I've consulted with everybody that I can with that. Really, when I first got my 1080, the only people I could talk to were NHL guys.
Right.
Honestly, like it wasn't that popular. The 2 hadn't come out yet. So it was either major NCAA Div 1 schools or the NHL. So we're talking to them, and we really developed what makes somebody fast and then kind of reverse engineered it into the weight room. So what I'm doing this semester is a little bit different. It's nothing by the textbook, but we sprint our 5 meters. We built up to it. We made sure everyone was familiar, right? Because you have freshmen. It's October right now. So we sprinted our 5 meters, and then I just broke them out into who are my bottom 50% for force production. And they're getting a force-oriented program. And then my other people are going to get a velocity-oriented program. And that's how we're kind of splitting it out. And then I have kind of some separate groups in there for people that, like, I know you're fast. Clearly, you're the most powerful. You're just not good at sprinting. So I'm going to put you on kind of like a sprint technique type of program, and that's going to help. But yeah, I broke it out that way. So the people focusing on force, they're trying to hit the highest peak velocity they can on their 0 step. So the very, very, very first step of a sprint, you have both feet on the ground, go. That is your 0 step. They're trying to get the highest velocity they can at different resistances, because your peak force is that 0 step, right? So I don't need to be focusing on 30, 40 meters down the hallway. Right here is where you need to get stronger. And then my people on a more velocity oriented program, I don't pull over speed in season. I haven't had success with that. So they're at a slight velocity decrement, hitting that, and then we're doing some things else in the weight room. So you rotate, around the weight room, circuit style training. You get your sprints in on the 1080. I have phenomenal students that are able to push the buttons and keep everybody safe, record the data that I want. And yeah, it's completely individualized based off of what they need, and it transfers to the ice. We're seeing the same qualities that they need on ice as off ice. And so it's individualized by the program, and then it's individualized by the numbers in terms of like resistances that they're running. All right, hey, you in particular, you have to hit this number with this weight. You're trying to hit this number with this weight. You guys are on a different program. You're doing this and that. And then you could take all of that and then bring it into the weight room, right? So I want the shortest ground contact time hurdles as possible for my group that needs more velocity, needs more speed. I want longer ground contact time hurdles for my group that needs more force. They need more strength. And then, yeah, you just keep breaking it up from there. It's not that hard. Hopefully it's going to work. I don't know. I'll stay tuned. I'll let you guys know how it all pans out.
Very, very cool stuff, man. Like amazing. You're truly an innovator. And you're doing great things, and you're doing right by your athletes, which is amazing. I can't wait to continue to see how your career continues to go, because it's amazing the way that you think about things, and the way that you take what they're doing and assess and be able to get what each individual athlete needs to get the most out of their performances is phenomenal.
I steal a lot. Like I'm not
good.
that great. I
think we all do. That's what the best ones do, man. That's like how we got it, right? Like I've never had an original idea in my life. Like we steal, we borrow, we ask questions, we tweak it to our athletes or our program and what makes it work. But that's, I think, to me, the sign of a good coach who actually genuinely cares about their athletes and wanting to give them the best opportunity to perform at the highest level on the regular, not just a one and done type of situation, but where they can consistently improve and get better and better and keep going with it. So I appreciate you, man. That you really, I mean, it's been awesome.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. And my main guy is Chris Korfus. I've said his name a bunch, but I just steal everything from him. And
we've had him on. Chris, you'll love it. When we opened up Chris, he was playing a guitar.
He was playing a guitar. Oh yeah.
I believe it. Yeah, I believe it. I've been to his house. I've seen the guitars in the basement he's got there. He's a mad scientist, for sure. And for anyone
Yes, he
listening,
is. That's
yeah,
exactly what it is.
if you've never attended a track football consortium, I highly, highly recommend it. You'll be around other like-minded
Yeah,
coaches.
I'm excited.
Yeah, you'll realize you're not crazy. There's a lot of amazing stuff out there. And the best part about TFCs as well is it's all coaches presenting, but it's a lot of teachers presenting as well, right? Like there's a difference between I'm a lifetime coach and I go and I present. All right, that's fine. But like Tony Holler had to teach chemistry to high school students at 7 a.m. for his whole life. He's a teacher who also coaches, and you see it in the presentations, the way they deliver it, the way they visualize it, the way they engage you. That's what TFC brings versus I've been to other conferences. It's like, okay, the information's pretty good, but like this guy is brutal. All right, it just kind of is what it is.
Right.
No doubt about it. Interesting. It's really, really interesting stuff. And well, we appreciate you coming on. And we hopefully down the road we'll have you on again. Maybe after the season, we'll have you on again.
That'd be wonderful.
Talk about some of the things that you maybe implemented this year and talk about the results of that, and what you thought went well and what you thought you got to continue to evolve, because I find that the most interesting thing too of all of it is like, as you keep experimenting, it's when you find a thing that works really well, you double down on it and helps you to really get the athletes to the next level. I think the more coaches can, within obviously the realm they're in, throw away the fear of rejection, meaning, it's a natural tendency for people to want to get along with everybody, and that's part of the business is obviously relational, right? So that's what makes it hard to always be an innovator in sports fields and stuff like that, because the relationships is part of what makes your coaching staff good and what makes the athletes good. And now you're quote unquote maybe going against the grain. But the more we could throw that fear of having to be liked and more about what is best for our athletes, and trying to figure that out, I think overall the performances will get better and better. And the sidebar of it all is they're healthier, they're less injured, right? Like we didn't talk a ton about that, but that's the thing that's really availability, right? The most important thing is being available, right, to be able to perform. And this allows you to also be not just perform at your highest level, but to be available to perform at a high level, which I think sometimes coaches underestimate the value of that. Like when they're practicing, like
I can't do much if he's not out there, buddy.
Exactly.
I always say, like, we go, you guys all want to do tackling drills with other people, and then all of a sudden one of the best players goes, oh, my head's hurting me. And you realize, what if he's not available now on Sunday?
Yep. Yeah.
How does that change your game?
What I have noticed here with my men's team, college hockey, is whoever looks the best with their shirt off is hurt the most. And that it has been true 100% of the time.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Whoever looks the best with their shirt off is hurt the most. And I have a picture of when the Capitals won the Stanley Cup, Alex Ovechkin shirtless in a fountain, and like his just a bag of milk body. So up in Canada, for our listeners, their milk comes in plastic bags. Then you put it into a container in the fridge. Like you cut the bag and you're able to pour it. So it doesn't come in our standard, gallon plastic carton or whatever. But yeah, just bag of milk body. And that's the guy that led a team to a Stanley Cup championship. So why are we doing all these curls and everything like that? Like you only have so many reps with your shoulders. There's just only so many hits and so many repetitions you could take. Save it all for practice in the game. If you look really good with your shirt off, I know there's a major injury or a minor one that just lasts the entire season coming. It's 100% true all the time. If you look really good with your shirt off, like it's just going to happen. You're going to get hurt.
There's no
Makes me
doubt.
feel a little better about myself. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I've been working injury prevention for 30 years. I'm ready. Yeah.
No, there's no doubt about it. Oh man, that's great. That really is great stuff. I can't thank you enough for coming on. Not just great informationally, but entertaining as well, which we certainly enjoy.
Thoroughly.
To talk to some, well, you're a Jersey guy. You're gonna have personality. Like I'm sure they tease you about that all the time down there in Virginia, right? Because the Jersey guys always have personality. So that's always. That's part of it. The par for the course in coaching. So, but anyway, best of continued luck to you. We definitely want to get you on after the season, talk about all that kind of stuff. And have a great hockey season. And we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. Hey, fellas, thanks again, and thank you for giving a platform to the TFC community and just other coaches. I grew up on podcasts in this field, and that's what kind of gives me my confidence. So you're doing the Lord's work here for the random guy in Missouri who's struggling a little bit with their track football team and not sure what to do. So appreciate it. Appreciate you having me on.
Thanks so much, Chris. You have a great day, buddy.
Yeah,
Chris.
thank you guys. Yeah, stay warm up there.
Take care, buddy.
A little cold now.
Oh yeah. Rub it in, buddy. Rub it in.
Yeah. All right, I'll see you guys. Thanks.
All right, bye.
Thank you.
Phenomenal. You're doing a great job.
Stuff.
What's that?
I said that's interesting shit, man. Like, to me, hockey, it fascinates me because it's of our major sports here, right? Like, it's probably the least. I don't know. It's probably number 4, right? But you're talking like when you start talking playoff hockey, and you're just talking about like all of the physical things that other sports do, but they do them on a freaking like piece of metal and ice. Like, to be able to do some of those things, right? And then so that I asked the question about like with skates and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's just to me, it's just fascinating. That adds a whole nother level of skill set, and that just these other sports I don't think have.
Yeah, I think that part is different. Skating is definitely hard as someone who's tried it a couple times. And definitely, I'm definitely not a what you would call a water.
Listen, buddy, I could skate.
Ice or water related. Anything with ice or water related. Even though I could swim decently well, but anything with ice or water related, I'm definitely a land warrior. Definitely a land warrior. But it is amazing. It's great stuff. It's having like. Now, having had time to reflect on like the things that I think I did well and didn't do well in my season, like it's interesting because we got to the point where if there was a practice that went 2 hours, like, oh my God, like people were like, what's going on here? Like, and that used to be the norm. Like that was the norm. We were usually between we're probably around an hour and 45 in general, but sometimes we'd be at 2. And people are like, whereas the old days of 2.5 to 2:45,
3,
was
Jesus,
was the norm, right? And you forget how like little you get out of them. And then the sprinting at the beginning, like that was one of the things I could implement this right away because it knocks it right out, and you're doing, and it's amazing how it gets guys better. And you don't even like at the end of like when kids are dragging at the end of practice. And I might have done the only thing I did at the end of practice this year. I ended up not doing it as much near the end. But I used to do like tug of war sometimes for fun, or like they used to love to do. We have a small hill. They would love to climb the hill at the end, barrel roll it or whatever. So we would do that once in a while. But basically what happened was like when we got to the end of practice, we just ended it. And they were like, wow, that's great. We're just done. Like, what I'm saying? Like,
right.
We're done. Let's call it up. Yeah. We'll see you tomorrow. And I don't know. Like you'd have to ask kids what they think about it. But I think that it definitely makes an impact on their performance. Um, One of the things that I think is interesting in youth football, you only can practice 3 days, right? So
Right.
because you can only practice 3 days, there's a large recovery that ends up happening for those kids, and I think that's actually helpful for them to perform no matter where they are on Sundays or whatever. So whereas in high school, you're backed up right to the game day. You practice every day up to the game. I wonder if some of these kids have legs sometimes when
They
they're
don't.
going. Yeah, and I think that that's something high school coaches have to think more about. Like if I went back to high school coaching ever, and I was ever head coach again, because obviously I probably would have to. I don't know if I would ever get a head coaching job right away. I would have to probably be an assistant. So I would 100%
Nah, you could get one.
if I ever got a head coaching job again, I would
You could get one.
the way that practices would look, even for me, and I would say I was fairly innovative in what I did. Like there was a lot of things I did that maybe like when it warms my heart when I hear about what you do in special teams, you know what I mean? Because that's right after my heart, like those kind of things. Like
Yeah, buddy.
special teams to me is no different than it's an offensive play or a defensive play, depending on what it is.
100%.
That's how I
And look,
look
I've
at
been
it.
fortunate enough look, I'm lucky to work for a head guy that believes in that just as much as we do. You know what I'm saying? Because that's kind of a rarity, especially as public school football, smaller group size, where you're worried about offense and defense and whatnot and all that kind of stuff. Like where this is, but coach, this isn't a Thursday, roll it out there, make sure we have 11 and keep it just not a negative play, right? Like he understands that, this is a huge part of the game. And if we can do one or two things here in our favor, because, at the end of the day, there's going to be a special teams play within the game itself that it's going to set your offense up or your defense up in a negative, positive way. So why not preach that? And especially in today's era where, if kids aren't doing something or they're not involved in that varsity game, like are they even going to stick it out? Right. So that's a place where if you do it enough, like you can now utilize those guys and they can play a role and, you can teach them how to be a teammate when they're not the spotlight guy, right? Because look, this role is just as important as offense and defense. And as it's almost like a little bit of a rite of passage thing too, where you don't have a whole hierarchy of older guys and younger guys, but this is what it is to be a sophomore, right? It's to play on special teams and, make an impact. If you're only getting 22 snaps a game in a varsity time, like, I also dangle the whole like, hey man, you want that varsity letter? You want a varsity jacket for football as a sophomore? Like, get on teams because those plays are going to accumulate. And guess what? Now you got your letter, and you know what I mean? Like that stuff for them is big, right? Like they want that. At least where I am, a varsity jacket says something for you, and they want it. And I mean, I'll be damned if there's not majority of my squad that has lettered this year just by participation on specials and whatnot and doing the right thing. So it's fun. And every guy treats it different, whether you have a full-blown special teams coordinator who does it all and then delegates within, or whether you use each assistant coach to team, or there's a million ways to do it. And but this works for us, where I get to kind of do the whole thing. Obviously, the head coach, not being primarily on offense or on defense, he takes a very active role on certain teams, right? Like if I had to pick a couple, like, he's big on punt is kind of his thing, and we kind of let him roll with it. And man, you got to see buy, and even more so from players when the head coach is coaching that shit up. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh boy, right? So that was one thing I always said to younger guys, like a first year head coach, like, hey man, like hire a good OC, hire a good DC, and you run specials, because they'll buy in when the head coach is doing that shit.
Yeah, I mean, specials are an important part of the game. I mean, offense.
It's got to be interesting at the youth level, Dave. Like, how much do specials play a role? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
they do. Kick return plays a big role.
Right.
We're one of the. You were one of the
Well,
only
that's
teams that effectively
what I was going to get to. That's
punted
what I
well.
was going to get to, because I bet a lot of those other guys that you play against, you know, it's kind of just, hey, do we have 11? You know, like
you know, especially as they get older, specials
and
play
man, if you
more and
can
more of a
instill
role.
that,
But like, listen, River Plastic kicks extra points. They get 2 points. That's
it's
huge.
huge.
That's
But I mean,
huge.
also, like, if you now implement that into those younger guys, like that age level, into their brains, that, you know, it's offense, it's defense, but like teams, man, like these teams are so important and pivotal that they get into as they get older, you know, and the intricacies of special teams more so, right? Because it only expands as they get older into, you know, the things that you do and what we do and how important, you know what I mean? But if they already understand that, like, yeah, there's offense, there's defense, but guess what? This is another thing that usually wins or loses you a game in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's flipping a field,
the hardest thing for
whether
me,
it's making a wow play, you know?
the hardest thing for me is to watch other coaches, like where people like, you know, in youth this is more of an issue, but like, you know, they hire coaches that don't take the time to figure out what the skills are of the players, that don't
Kind of hate
like.
it.
I mean, at basketball, well, our travel team, we do it because I'm an assistant on it, but even if the head coach does stuff that I really, you know, wouldn't do, I
Of
focus
course.
my part on what I think I can help. You know, all right, let's get the pieces in the right places. Let's make
Yeah.
sure that we, you know, this guy is paired with this guy because they work well together, right? So I think those are big part. But when I watch it, like I watch guys
It's painful.
you know what's frustrating to me?
Painful.
When I see guys that have players or have and they don't try to figure out how to utilize everybody as much to what is the best
See,
maximal situation for that team.
Dave,
Doesn't mean
that's
that
where
everybody gets
we
the
have,
ball. There's one
but
ball. Okay.
no, but here's the other part too. I think also that comes, like, we have perspective on it, because for most people, if you don't get the ball, if you don't score a touchdown, if you don't make an interception, if you're not making a tackle for a loss or a sack, you didn't do shit. Now, that as a college coach in recruiting, I'm looking for way more than that, right? So, look, you might be a receiver in an offense that only throws 10 times a game. So your opportunities are very limited. But guess what, dude? I'm going to put you on punt as a gunner. And if you can run down there and make a tackle, or I'm going to put you on kickoff, and if I teach you how to do this stuff, that adds more value to who you are as a player, and ultimately puts you in a better chance, puts you in a better position to get recruited for the things that the average fan or parent won't see. And
You know what
I can tell you 1,000 stories, man, about how that is. I mean, look, our very first guest, Liam Anderson, will tell you that is the reason he's in the NFL, is because he can play every special team because he was taught to do it and asked to do it, right? And because he's not a trick pony linebacker, he's been on the practice squad for, 4 years with the freaking Indianapolis Colts.
I think that the biggest thing that people have an issue with is that the carrying or the guy who gets the ball, right? And in football, that's definitely the biggest thing. Basketball, eventually everybody touches the ball. It's not just because the sport the way it is. You may not get
100%.
But everybody does touch the ball technically at some point.
Right. And you could literally say, hey, guys, like 10 passes, then we can shoot.
Yes. Yeah. Right, which a lot of these guys try to do, which I think is crazy, but they do try to do that.
It's
Um,
absolutely asinine, but it is what it is. It is
it
fun
is.
though sometimes to watch a defense just fly around and miss and whatever. Then all of a sudden, all right, you're at 10, and that guy, you think that guy's to 11? Frig no, bro. That thing goes flying. Like, here we go.
Yes, and so it's but in football, the hardest thing for parents, period, is to understand. Like I mean, I always, but it doesn't matter how many times you say it. There's one football. There's limited number of plays within a game. Okay, the majority of the plays in general will go to whoever your best runner is running the ball.
Yep.
Okay, that's 15 plays off the table immediately. At least, maybe 20, but 15
And
plays.
also, like, let's reference that. Look, here's how many snaps we plan to get a game offensively, right? Like, do you have a number in your mind?
Well, at my level, I know it's much different than high school. So, but at
No,
my
like,
level,
let's talk your level right now.
40 offensive snaps, that would be probably about, when we play River Plaza, it's probably 30, just because they hold the ball, right?
Let's say, okay, let's round up, right? Let's say, okay, 40 plays of offense.
Let's say 40.
Automatically, your best player, there's 15.
That's 10 to 15 easily.
You're already look, even if you cut it short and say 10.
I would say you're running back. You're running back 10 to 15 because it doesn't mean he's the best athlete on the team. Okay, there are better. You might have a better athlete out at receiver or something like that, but you're not throwing at the youth level. Also requires a thing that people forget about called protecting.
God, yeah, dude.
And protecting is still very hard.
You can't just give the fucking ball away.
Well, no, it's very hard to protect passing at the youth level effectively.
In terms of offensive line play?
It's very hard. Even the really good teams have a hard time with it. Okay? Because
I'm dealing with it in high school, bro. We
can't.
No,
that's my point. There's a skill level. Pass protection as a line, like run blockers, you can maul people, right? You got big, tough, heavy guys, you can maul people.
Pass blocking is totally different, dude.
There's an art form to it, too. Like, that guy is got to be
a lot of guys don't teach it because it's hard at a young age.
Very hard. It's very hard.
So you're talking about guys trying to learn shit as freshmen in high school. Dude, they're not perfect until they're a freaking
very hard to teach, by the way.
Think about some of the best linemen we've had, Dave. Dude, they were not good when we got them. I mean, that's a day in process. I really saw it this year when we went from being 3-point stance to 2-point stance. Just that in itself, an astronomical amount of time to perfect that. Yes. And I'm saying we're not even close to perfect, but I'm just saying to be able to be in a 2-point stance and feel comfortable, not only run blocking, but obviously pass blocking as well, because it's a totally different beast trying to run block out of a 2-point stance than it is, a 3-point stance. It's crazy skill wise. It's why to me, and people debate me on this, like your most important hire behind your strength guy needs to be your O-line guy.
Right. Well, yeah, of course. I mean, that's
just what it is. Because if you don't win up front, you got no shot. You can have the best quarterback in the world. You can have skill guys out to a zoo. Absolutely. I don't give a shit, dude. Like, you're only going to win so many games until that, especially where we are, right? And I'm big, like in the Northeast, like right now, when you're starting to get into playoff football time, like it's cold, it's miserable weather-wise, right? Like, if you can't turn around and run the ball and control the clock at this point of the season when you're playing really good teams across the board, like, it ain't happening, dude. It ain't happening. There's no and I was a skill guy my life. Like those guys up front, like just do your job, keep me clean.
I coached line this year.
But dude, I'm just telling you, that's where I think at your level, Dave, I think at your level, that's where your coach needs to be. Because if you can't do that,
a little bit our skill, but it helped our line so much that we were better. We were better. So and we're not where we need to be, but we were better. And I think that
But you had more numbers with bigs this year than you've ever had before. I remember you referencing that from the start.
Listen, when the head coach goes over to the line, this is just my opinion, okay? When the head coach goes over to the line versus your natural thing as a head coach is to want to go over by your skill guys, okay?
Of course.
But when you do individual with the line and the head coach goes over, when you ask kids who may not normally want to play the line to come over with you, you know what?
They will.
I'm with the head coach. At least he's seeing me. This is the guy who's going to dictate my playing time, and he's seeing
100%,
me. So,
100%.
as much as the truth is, the fun part of throwing and passing. That's the fun part, but the line is the part that's the most important. And those kids, the kids that end up going over there, the truth is they're always really good kids for the most part.
You're great kids.
They really they all really want to be skill guys too. Okay, let's be honest.
They all do. Listen, I had a O-line, D-line guy. I put him on the second line at kickoff the other day for JV, and he caught a kick return, and he brought it back to the opposite 30. Dude, you would have thought I gave him $1 million, bro.
Of course.
And now he hasn't stopped asking me for the film because he wants to put it on his freaking whatever social media. But I'll just tell you, but it was awesome, dude. He ran through somebody, he ran around somebody. I think his entire sophomore season, right? And this kid's been stealing reps varsity wise, and a kick return on JV was the highlight of his hey, I sent it to my aunt in Texas. Dude, all right. But yeah, they all want to be that, especially with the 7-on-7 world and all these other kind of things. There's nothing for the bigs to kind of do. We've been searching for years to figure out something, right? And there just isn't all skill guys until they're not, right? And it's really difficult to get those kids to buy in because they don't get the spotlight that the running back gets or the quarterback gets. But if those 5 guys don't do their friggin' job, dude, we ain't doing shit. So you guys are the most important part of this team, right? No play starts without a snap from a center to a quarterback. And with how much, or how with the lack of people going under center, which I still think should be a part of every offense, irregardless of what system you run, right? Whether you're in gun or pistol, I still think you need an under center package in some way. When guys take victory snaps out of freaking and take a knee, going pistol, I want to I'm so scared shitless, but it is what it is. I just think that's that's a key position. And those guys up front, if they can do their job, man, you're going to control a game. At least you have the opportunity to play with, or absolutely. There's nothing better than when a double team gets to that second level and picks off a backer, right? Or a guy gets out on a screen, right? And makes a big block space. And everybody's like, whoa, look at that big daddy go. That's the stuff that's, you know what I mean? That could change the momentum of a whole game just by one dude doing their, most average fans or parents, they don't have a goddamn clue what the line is doing up front. All they know is when the guy gets sacked, somebody didn't do their job, right? An orchestrated dance. It's like synchronized swimming with those guys. Elephants on parade, right? It is something beautiful when you get that pocket formed and your quarterback can up and all of those things, or you get a good down block with a great pull and a kick out, or the guy logs the guy on the outside, right, and you hit the edge when it's supposed to be on the interior, but they just read it right and you're good to go. It's so key. That's the majority of your numbers, right? 11 guys on offense, 5 of them are linemen, dude. What are we doing? Where do you think the most time should be spent? There it is.
When I go on Simply Faster, it's very confusing. All the products. There's so many great things.
There's so much stuff.
I don't really know what's what, to be honest. I would almost need all these things that I'd love a shred mill, but it's $11,000. What's
You got
that?
to fundraise. You got to fundraise.
I'm not asking anybody for that, but I'm just, yeah. I mean, it is like.
Can you fit it in your basement?
What's that?
Listen,
Well,
Tony
I've expanded into my
Villani.
garage now. I've expanded
Tony
into my
Villani
garage.
talked about having to repo them from the big companies. He's like, I never have to repo them from the small guys. I have to repo them from the big guys because they don't want to pay their bill. Like,
I bet a lot of these things get repoed because they're so expensive.
I just want the timers on my guys to track how far they go in miles per hour. I just give me 5 of them. Like, that's all my wish list. Like, that's what it is, dude. Let me dive into that world, you know?
No doubt. Yeah. The GPS.
Because that to me, yeah, that like, if I know that this kid's run this much in practice or he hits 21 miles an hour in a game, like this guy's recruitable. That guy, you know what I mean? Now again, back to the whole thing of I have hard data to prove it and show it.
Like this OVR stuff. Like, what is all that? I don't even understand. I'm a pretty smart guy. I don't understand any of this shit. I mean, I really don't. Like, it's fucking awesome. I just look at it and go, that's fucking awesome, but I don't know what any of this shit is.
You can get into a rabbit hole when it comes to this stuff. This stuff will take you on a whole different level.
Yeah, I mean, look, the basics are still time them, see how high they jump, see how far they jump, and
Amen.
how what they lift. But yeah, I built a I have a hex bar deadlift, and then it amazingly, I've seen for the first time my kid like kind of evolve a little bit out of a child into that middle school area almost where
he's getting there. What's he, 6th grade?
Fifth. He's young. He's young though.
He's
but
young,
like,
is great. But remember, he's always been like a
well,
play
he's used to
guy.
being younger. He's used to being younger.
Of course,
so like
he's always been in more up situations, right? Like he plays up. He does those types of things. He plays against older kids. He's he gets that.
But it's what now they have St. Leo's has 5th, 6th grade basketball team. So he made that team, and which is cool. So he's playing with the 6th graders. He's in there. He made that
such a big
team.
part, bro.
Yep, I like that they have that because that's earlier than the public schools. I don't think they start middle school stuff till 6th, right? So he's able to play.
Sixth at the earliest. 7th is the main thing. I have seen some guys, like I remember middle school basketball, and I don't know if it's the same way, obviously, but like it would be, you would have like a 5th and 6th, and then a 7th and 8th, and then like your better 6th would play like halftime of a 7 and 8 game, or you'd only get a couple 5 and 6s, like 5th and 6th grade type thing, right? The thing that always was for us was CYO, Catholic Youth League basketball, always had a 5th and 6th grade team and had a 7th and 8th grade team. Yeah, that was really awesome because you knew, like, hey, if I'm playing as a 5th grader with the 6th grader, like I'm pretty good. Something, Yeah. Or hey, like we're 6th grade heavy this year, next year, or hey,
you get to play other schools, which is cool.
Dude, you just go rock. So cool. And it was just unfortunate because even like for us, like it would always be like, hey, we have, like every year a school would drop it and it would be like, oh man, like, damn, you know what I'm saying? Like, is this even going to be a thing moving forward? You know what I'm saying? Because
what's cool is they get to go and they play other schools, right? So that's the beginning, the first phase of, like it even though football's town to town, you have some kids that aren't from your town that are.
Right.
This is really like the first kind of your school versus other schools, which is cool. Like
Yeah, because look, I can't tell you how many relationships
that
that I developed with other guys in other towns from, you know, that league. And then you start seeing it like, oh, we played basketball against each other. Oh, wait, you play football too? Like now, okay, now we're playing football against each other. I mean, look, that's how I met Drew Lascari. Like, you know what I mean? Like we hooped against each other in CYO in middle school. Then we played hoops and football against each other in middle school or in high school football. Then we were fortunate enough to play against each other in college. Like, and we just kept a relationship. Especially now, these kids, they all know everybody, right? Like one of the first things we ask when we're playing a team, like breaking down a film, is like, hey, any of you guys know any of these guys? Oh yeah, I know the running back. We played together on a 7-on-7 team. Or hey, this guy used to play that. You know what I mean? Like they have more of the intel because they know all these kids. It's not like us where we only saw them at, you know, the all conference dinner. You know what I'm saying? Because we were good.
That's true.
You know, like these guys, and obviously moms and dads know everybody because there's lists for everything. You talked about baseball, like there's 8-year-olds that are ranked at like whatever like, come on, dude. What are we talking about?
No doubt. All right, tomorrow we're back, right?
Yes, tomorrow we are back. We got Coach Collier, Alex Collier, 10 a.m. So he coaches down in Florida.
All right. We will
Good
see
stuff,
you
man.
guys there tomorrow.